am really excited to talk about this next topic, which is basket muzzle training, because I do feel like there are a lot of, at least what I've come across, there are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to basket muzzle training your dog. And when I say basket muzzle, I'm actually talking about the ones, and you'll see in the video demonstration with Brody, we're working with an actual basket muzzle. So as compared to the ones that you might see at your veterinary clinic or grooming, where it's just the little nylon fabric that fits over the snout and then clips behind the ears. So I'm actually talking about the basket muzzle. So I do feel that a lot of times people are a little bit hesitant as to wanting to train their dog to wear something on their face. Sometimes it's considered to be maybe perhaps a little bit cruel to force your dog to wear something on their head like that. And also there's a common misconception that dogs who wear muzzles are aggressive. And that's not normally true. Actually, that's really not true at all. So basket muzzles are for dogs who need the support of a muzzle for a variety of reasons. So, you know, dogs that might be unsure in new situations, and it's just for everyone's safety. But also it's a good deterrent if you don't necessarily want anyone to be interacting with your dog, because unfortunately basket muzzles do have kind of that, oh my goodness, that dog must be aggressive and he's wearing that muzzle because if he didn't have it on or she didn't have it on, he's gonna rip my face off or attack my dog. And that's not necessarily true, but good deterrent if you don't want people interacting with your dog. Basket muzzle train them and put a basket muzzle on them when you take them out into the community. Not necessarily the worst thing ever. Okay, so let's talk a little bit before we get into the demonstration with Brody. So basket muzzle training, there are a lot of steps to it, and we want to make sure that we do them in a positive way to make positive associations, and we don't want to do anything too fast. So I would make sure that your dog has a pretty solid understanding and gets excited about doing nose targeting. So that could be touching their nose to your hand. I do have another video on teaching your dog to nose target, which I will link. So I would make sure that they're comfortable touching various objects first, and then we can even take that a step further. So I like to play this next game, the place your face game, and you will see if you go back and watch the video discussing nose targeting and touch, I actually have some items that I am letting the dogs explore and actually place their snouts and muzzles in. So I think we have like a bowl. You can also use like a little cup if your dog is a little freaked out by that. Maybe use like a paper cup and cut out the bottom of it. There's even like those, not the big orange cones, but there's like the cones where if you cut off the top and it's like half of the cone and they can stick their nose through it. So just something like that where they get comfortable with touching something with their nose, and then you can introduce the basket muzzle to them. So I will explain a little bit more in the demonstration, but I want to tell you some of the benefits that you are going to find with working with a basket muzzle and actually positively training your dog to accept wearing one. So it's going to be a mental exercise for both of you. So it's going to encourage and allow your dog to be active, engaged, and a willing participant in what's going on, because we're turning it into a game. Remember, we're just playing place your face, except we're asking our dog to place their face inside the basket muzzle. It's also going to be a really good mental exercise for you as the human, because you are going to need to watch your dog's body language, modify the training if you might be moving too fast, or if you can speed things up a little bit, or if your dog is uncomfortable with something. And you also have to track the progress. So what did work that day, what didn't work that day, where, you know, are there areas for improvement, where do you maybe need to slow down, things like that. Another thing that's positive is it's relationship building. So we're doing positive associations to you, but also positive associations to the basket muzzle. And the way that we're doing those positive associations is because you're moving at the dog's pace. So we're not forcing the dog to do anything that they don't want to do. And if they say they don't want to participate in the activity anymore, we're done. We're done. So remember, when your dog says no, you're done. It doesn't mean that they're done for the entire day, but we just want to make sure that we are being respectful of that. So with the relationship building, it's giving you guys a chance to connect, cooperate, and enjoy each other's company by not only working on a skill, but also playing a game. So I talked about this a little bit, but it allows your dog to practice agency. So your dog gets choice and control over if and when they actually want to interact with it and how much interaction. So if your dog is not comfortable putting their nose into it, no big deal. We'll work up to that. And you are going to practice listening to your dog and making sure that you are being respectful of their choices and how they are communicating with you and what they're communicating with you. So this can also, you know, two of the number one reasons that dogs bite is when they are scared or they're in pain. Muzzle training, if you do it properly and you make a positive association to it, it can actually help your dog relax, because instead of adding an additional layer to, shit, there's something that they're gonna force me to do and some weird thing they're gonna put on my head, your dog sees the basket muzzle and is like, oh, I know this, that's totally fine. I'm totally okay with wearing that. So they can relax and breathe a little bit. So that's one less thing they have to worry about, instead of like, hi, here's this thing I'm gonna put on your face. You need to be okay with that. I know you're scared, or I know you're hurting, but we're just gonna add something else to it. So good luck dealing with that. So it can be a positive thing and not necessarily something to add more anxiety or have them become more nervous or scared. And it allows for your dog to wear a muzzle. So they are opting in, they're saying, yes, I will wear it, instead of being muzzled and being forced to. So again, that's agency, that's choice. All right, over to the demonstration with my good friend Brody.
So Brody is working with a Baskerville muzzle. There are different brands. This is just the one that I'm most familiar with and tend to work with. As you can see, we are just playing the game of touch right now. No expectations for him to actually interact with it. If he wants to touch his nose to it, that's just a bonus. Okay, so you're going to see that I'm going to do a lot of different things with the basket muzzle. So I do actually have it upside down at the moment, and that's just because I wanted to get the straps out of the way, but I also wanted to get Brody more comfortable with preparing for human error, because sometimes we try to put things on our dogs upside down. But also, as you can see, I can fold back the flaps a little bit more, and he has a little bit more space to work with. So you won't see this in this video that we're working on, but a few things that you can do aside from just presenting the basket muzzle to them and having them place their face in it. So Brody is actually already conditioned to wearing a muzzle, so this is just kind of a refresher on everything. So you can actually place it in a bowl and put food down in the bottom of the basket muzzle or underneath it to encourage your dog to explore and put their face in it. You can also put or smear some peanut butter or maybe even some yogurt or baby food or something like that, whatever your dog likes. You can smear that inside to encourage and entice your dog a little bit more to place their nose in there. You can also place larger pieces of deli meat in there.
Good boy.
He's doing so good with this. And Brody actually doesn't really have the need to wear his basket muzzle as much as he used to, but we still incorporate it into his training routine and bring it out from time to time because Brody sees it as playing a game, and the muzzle just happens to be a game piece that we use while we're playing the game. So I did take the straps down so he can get used to the sensation and the feel of the straps around his head. So we are not even working with the straps yet. So you can see there's many different moving parts to this. So we have to get our dog comfortable, 1, with the sight and the presence of it, 2, with touching it, 3, with putting their muzzle in it, and then we also have to get our dog comfortable with the straps going up and over their head and ears, and then also being buckled. So we want to make sure we break this down into many different steps. Brody is staying engaged. As long as he's staying engaged, that lets me know that he is okay with the session continuing. If he were to maybe stop and back away from it, or he gets up and leaves, that's a good indicator to me that he might need a little bit of a break from the session, and that's okay. And you guys might not be able to hear this, but the buckles can sometimes make a little bit of a noise. So sometimes if your dog has a little bit of a noise sensitivity, that can be a little bit jarring to them as well. I would also recommend that you do spend some time making a positive association between your hands interacting with their head and their ears, and also getting food rewards, because you are going to need to be able to touch their head and their ears in order to secure the basket muzzle on their head when we actually get to that point.
Good job, Brody. Yeah. Good boy. Good boy.
And you'll see I break things down into steps. So just because he puts his face in doesn't mean we're going to put everything over his ears and automatically buckle it. We're going to take it right off, and then we're going to put it right back on. Well done, Brody.